Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the richest version of yourself. Not someone you are trying to become, but someone who already exists. See that version living freely, generously, without fear or limitation. That self is not a dream. It is a reality that already exists in the invisible realm. You do not have to create massive wealth. You only have to allow it. Wealth is not something you chase. Chasing implies it is separate from you, distant, outside your reach. But true abundance is a state, a natural extension of who you are when you stop resisting. Every time you feel lack, every time you say, "I don't have," you are closing the door on what is already waiting for you. The moment you assume that you are already wealthy, everything in your world begins to shift. People, opportunities, and ideas align to match the inner certainty you hold. You become magnetic, not because you work harder, but because you have shifted your state from striving to having. Do not confuse action with struggle. Inspired action flows easily when you feel rich within. Struggle, on the other hand, comes from fear and desperation, and it keeps you stuck in cycles of scarcity. Release the idea that you must earn wealth by proving yourself or exhausting yourself. Begin to live mentally from the end. Spend time each day dwelling in the feeling of already having what you desire. Let yourself feel the security, the freedom, the joy that wealth brings. Now, not later. When you fully embody that feeling, the outer world must reflect it. Massive wealth is already yours. Stop asking for it, stop doubting it, simply step into it. The river of abundance is flowing right now, and the only thing you need to do is take your hands off the dam you've built with fear, doubt, and struggle. Let it pour. Accept it as done. Wealth is not something that begins in the outer world, nor is it something you acquire only through effort or external action. It begins in the unseen, in the realm of imagination, thought, and inner conviction. Before any physical object or financial outcome exists, it first takes shape as an idea, a mental picture, or a felt assumption. This invisible dimension is where all true creation starts, and wealth is no exception. You are not actually trying to bring something new into existence. Rather, you are learning to align yourself with what is already present but not yet visible to your senses. Every structure, invention, or empire that has ever been built began as an unseen vision in someone's mind. The same principle applies to personal financial abundance. When you look at your current circumstances and see lack, you are simply observing the after effects of previous states of mind and belief. What appears as reality is just a shadow of what was once imagined. If you want to change what you see, you must change the unseen cause behind it. This is why focusing solely on outer effort often leads to frustration, because effort alone cannot override the deeper state of consciousness that is generating your results. Wealth already exists in infinite supply. There is no shortage in the universe itself. Any feeling of shortage exists only in human perception. Just as radio waves are constantly around you, even when you cannot see or hear them, opportunities, ideas, and streams of abundance are already here. The question is not whether they exist, but whether you are tuned to the right frequency to receive them. Aligning with wealth means embodying the feeling, belief, and identity of a person who already has more than enough. That alignment is what tunes you to the reality where wealth naturally flows to you. Alignment is not about forcing yourself to think positive thoughts for a few minutes a day while spending the rest of your time worrying. It is about cultivating a stable inner state where abundance feels natural and expected. You begin to feel rich even before the evidence shows up. You make decisions, however small, from a place of confidence rather than fear. You trust that what you need is already on its way. This mental atmosphere is far more powerful than any single action because it determines the quality and results of every action you take. People often assume they have to make wealth happen by constant effort, but what they are really doing is trying to compensate for an inner belief in lack. If you believe at the core that wealth is scarce or hard to get, your actions, no matter how intense, will carry that energy, and the results will reflect struggle rather than ease. When you truly know wealth exists already and that it is yours by right of consciousness, your actions stop being desperate. They become inspired, effective, and often surprisingly simple. This is why the unseen world matters more than the visible one. The visible is just the echo. If you try to rearrange the echo without changing the source, you will stay trapped in cycles of temporary progress followed by setbacks. But the moment you shift your internal state to one of abundance, the external world has no choice but to reorganize itself. You don't create wealth from nothing, you allow what already exists to flow to you by dropping the belief that it is missing. Everything you desire, including massive wealth, already exists as a completed possibility. Your task is not to struggle for it, but to align with it. And that alignment begins in silence, in imagination, in the unseen space where you choose to feel that it is already done. Once that inner reality is stable, the outer world will mirror it without resistance. Your financial reality is not simply the result of your external actions, circumstances, or even the economy around you. It is shaped primarily by your inner state, the habitual feelings, beliefs, and assumptions you carry about yourself and about money. Every interaction, decision, and opportunity that appears in your life is influenced by the vibration you hold within. This inner vibration is not abstract. It is the emotional tone you live in daily. If that tone is rooted in fear, doubt, or scarcity, it will be reflected back to you through situations that confirm those feelings. If it is rooted in confidence, security, and abundance, life will organize itself to match that energy. People often try to change their financial lives by working harder, chasing opportunities, or forcing themselves into endless action. While action has its place, action that comes from a state of lack tends to reinforce the very lack you are trying to escape. You may temporarily earn more, but the underlying anxiety about not having enough will continue to produce situations where money slips away, emergencies arise, or unexpected bills appear. In contrast, when you shift your inner state, your actions become different, not because you consciously force them to, but because you naturally make choices that align with abundance rather than survival. The feeling you habitually carry acts like a signal that attracts matching experiences. If you constantly feel anxious about money, you unconsciously look for evidence to justify that anxiety, and you make choices that perpetuate it. You might avoid opportunities because they feel too risky, even if they are exactly what could elevate you. Or you might accept less than you deserve because your inner state doesn't allow you to see yourself as worthy of more. On the other hand, someone who feels financially secure, even before their bank account reflects it, tends to see and act on opportunities others overlook. They negotiate differently, they carry themselves with more certainty, and people respond to them with greater trust and willingness. This magnetic effect is not mystical, it is psychological and energetic. When you hold an inner feeling long enough, it becomes a belief. That belief influences your posture, your tone of voice, your level of patience, and your willingness to take inspired action. Others sense this even if they cannot explain why. They are drawn to someone who feels stable and self-assured, and they hesitate around someone radiating desperation or fear. Financial opportunities often come through people, and people naturally respond to the state you project. Shifting your outer reality starts with consistently cultivating a new inner feeling. It is not enough to affirm, "I am wealthy," while secretly feeling poor or undeserving. The transformation happens when the feeling of abundance becomes more familiar than the feeling of lack. This requires intentional practice. imagining yourself as already having what you want, carrying gratitude for even small financial blessings, and noticing when fear-based thoughts arise so you can redirect them. Over time, this new emotional baseline becomes automatic, and your world begins to mirror it. Because everything in your life, it is important to understand that your inner state is something you can choose, not something dictated by your current bank balance. If you wait for external evidence before you allow yourself to feel abundant, you remain stuck in the same cycle. But when you decide to feel wealthy, supported, and secure now, regardless of what you see, your actions, perceptions, and opportunities shift. The outer world is a delayed reflection of the inner one, and as your habitual feelings become aligned with abundance, your financial reality will eventually catch up and match them. Wealth does not first appear in your bank account, your career, or your business. It begins as an internal assumption, a conviction that you are already the person who possesses it. Assumption acts as the bridge between the unseen and the seen, between the invisible realm of potential and the tangible experiences of your daily life. Until you assume wealth as your reality, it cannot consistently manifest around you, because life mirrors the state you occupy, not the things you wish for. Most people wait for evidence before they allow themselves to feel rich. They tell themselves that once the money comes, once the job arrives, or once their circumstances change, then they will finally feel abundant and secure. But that sequence is reversed. The external world reflects the internal world, not the other way around. You do not receive wealth so that you can assume yourself wealthy. You assume yourself wealthy, and then the physical conditions rearrange to match that assumption. Assumption is more than just thinking positive thoughts. It is the mental act of living from the end, of embodying the feeling that what you desire is already true. It is choosing to walk through life as though your financial situation is already resolved, as though your wealth is already available, even if your senses are currently showing you something else. This can feel unnatural at first because your physical environment might contradict it. But holding that assumption is what causes the shift. Your mind is always assuming something. Every day you assume you are either fortunate or unlucky, capable or limited, secure or vulnerable. These assumptions run so automatically that you rarely question them, yet they are shaping your choices, your emotional responses, and the results you experience. If you habitually assume scarcity, telling yourself it's hard to make money, there's never enough, or people like me can't be wealthy, then your life must reflect those beliefs. They become self-fulfilling prophecies, not because the world is fixed, but because you continually align yourself with the reality they describe. Choosing a new assumption is not about ignoring facts. It is about understanding that facts are temporary expressions of past states. They are not permanent laws. What you see right now is the outcome of previous assumptions you have carried. If you want a different result, you must consciously take on a new inner identity, even before anything changes outside you. That is the bridge. When you assume wealth is already yours, something subtle but powerful begins to happen. You stop approaching opportunities from desperation. You make choices that align with someone who already has enough. You carry yourself differently in conversations. You see possibilities you previously overlooked because you were too focused on fear. Even your energy changes, and people respond to it, offering trust, ideas, and resources you might not have attracted otherwise. The challenge is persistence. Many people try to assume wealth for a day or two, then quickly abandon the practice because their current reality hasn't shifted yet. They look at their bank account, feel the old fear, and slip back into their former state. But assumption works when it becomes stable, when it is no longer something you do for a few minutes, but something you embody as your natural self-concept. Your outer world will always catch up to your dominant inner assumption. If you maintain the inner certainty that wealth is yours now, not someday, life will reorganize itself to reflect that certainty. The assumption is not just a thought. It is the bridge that carries you from wishing to having, from hoping to knowing, and from lack to abundance. Most people approach wealth with tension, urgency, and a constant sense of pursuit. They believe that the harder they push, the faster money will come. Yet the very energy of grasping and worrying creates resistance. When you feel desperate for wealth, you are affirming its absence. You are signaling both to yourself and to the world around you that you do not yet have what you desire. Detachment is the opposite of that energy. It is not about giving up on wealth or ignoring your goals. It is about releasing the mental and emotional struggle that keeps abundance from flowing naturally to you. Detachment means you trust that what you seek is already on its way, even if you cannot see it yet. You no longer obsess over the how, the when, or the exact path by which money will come. You understand that wealth exists in infinite forms and that opportunities can arise from places you cannot predict. When you are overly attached, you try to control every step, forcing actions and decisions that often backfire. Detachment opens space for life to bring you solutions and avenues you would never have imagined. Worry and grasping are rooted in fear. The fear that if you do not hold on tightly, what you want will slip away. But fear itself is what blocks you from receiving. It narrows your vision, makes you reactive rather than creative, and causes you to overlook possibilities that a calm mind would easily see. Detachment, on the other hand, expands your awareness. It allows you to notice opportunities without clinging to them. You move with a sense of ease, and because you are not radiating desperation, people and circumstances respond to you more positively. And the particles of your activity being God. And of course, you are perceived in your... Think of money like water. When you grip it tightly, trying to force it to stay in your hands, it slips through your fingers. When you open your hand, water rests calmly in your palm. The same is true for wealth. Struggling for it creates pressure and scarcity, but trusting it creates flow. Detachment is that trust in action, the willingness to let go of constant mental strain and instead hold an inner knowing that you are already supported. This does not mean you take no action at all. Detachment is not passivity. It is inspired action rather than forced action. It is sending an application because you feel confident, not because you are panicked. It is starting a business because it excites you, not because you fear being left behind. Actions taken from detachment carry a lighter energy, and that energy often produces far better results than frantic effort. The challenge for many is that they believe worrying equals caring. They think if they stop obsessing, they will lose momentum. In reality, obsession drains momentum. It burns energy and clouds judgment. True progress comes when your mind is clear and your emotions are steady. When you let go of the constant internal struggle, you free up mental space for creativity, intuition, and opportunities that align with ease rather than force. Detachment is a signal to yourself and to life that you already trust the supply that exists beyond what your eyes can see. You are saying, I know it's coming, so I don't need to chase it. That calm confidence is magnetic. It draws wealth toward you instead of pushing it away. When you release the need to control every detail and stop worrying about whether abundance will come, you step into the natural rhythm of flow. And in that state, wealth often arrives faster, easier, and in greater amounts than you imagined possible. Living from the end means embodying the reality you desire as if it already exists, rather than waiting for external evidence to allow yourself to feel it. It is the deliberate choice to think, act, and feel as though abundance is your current state, not a future possibility. This approach may seem counterintuitive to those who have been conditioned to believe that you must first earn the right to feel wealthy. Yet every outer result you see is preceded by an inner cause, and that cause is your dominant state of consciousness. When you live from the end, you stop behaving like someone trying to get abundance and start carrying yourself as someone who already has it. Your thoughts begin to shift naturally. You no longer dwell on lack, fear, or the question of when will it happen. Instead, you ask yourself, how would I feel today if I already had everything I wanted? That feeling becomes the guide. If you would feel relaxed, grateful, and confident, then you cultivate those emotions now. The unseen level, the mental and emotional real, is where the true creation takes place. And once that state becomes familiar, the outer world eventually reflects it. Most people make the mistake of waiting for their environment to change before they allow themselves to feel abundant. They look at their current financial situation and conclude, I can't feel wealthy yet because I'm not wealthy. But that logic keeps them trapped in the same cycle because they are letting the outer world dictate their inner state. The outer world is always a delayed reflection of your past assumptions and feelings. If you continue to think from your current circumstances, you will simply recreate them. Living from the end breaks that pattern by shifting your identity first. Acting as if does not mean pretending in a superficial way. It means you internally identify with the person who already possesses what you desire. For example, someone who feels abundant may handle decisions differently. They may invest in themselves without hesitation. They may negotiate with more confidence. And they may see opportunities where others see risks. These actions are not forced. They flow naturally from the assumption of already being abundant. Emotions play a central role in this practice. Feeling is more powerful than words or thoughts alone. You can repeat affirmations all day, but if you still feel lack underneath, the results will be slow or inconsistent. Living from the end requires you to generate the emotional state that matches your desired reality. Imagine yourself already experiencing financial freedom. How would you breathe? How would you speak? What level of stress would disappear from your body? Allow yourself to experience that now and hold it consistently enough that it becomes your new baseline. Skepticism and impatience are the biggest obstacles to living from the end. When you look around and see that your outer circumstances haven't changed yet, it's easy to slip back into your old state. But persistence is key. Just as a seed takes time to grow, your new inner state must stabilize before it becomes visible. Doubt interrupts that process. Faith sustains it. Living from the end is about assuming the truth of your abundance on the unseen level and allowing life to catch up. The external shift may come gradually or suddenly, but it cannot be avoided once your inner state becomes dominant. By thinking, acting, and feeling as though you are already abundant, you align with the version of yourself who truly is, and eventually the world will have no choice but to mirror that reality back to you. Gratitude is more than a polite response or a temporary mood. It is a powerful state of consciousness that signals completion rather than longing. When you express genuine gratitude, you are affirming that what you desire is already yours on some level, even if your physical senses have yet to confirm it. This feeling of already having is exactly what anchors a manifestation. Without gratitude, your mind often stays in a cycle of seeking, asking, and waiting, energies that imply lack. With gratitude, you step into the energy of possession, and life reflects that state back to you. Most people think of gratitude as something you practice only after receiving something tangible. They wait for external proof before they allow themselves to feel thankful. But that approach keeps you reacting to life rather than creating it. True manifestation requires that you generate the feeling first. Gratitude, when practiced deliberately and consistently, becomes the emotional evidence that you already have what you seek. It sends a clear message to your subconscious mind. This is mine now, I accept it fully. The gratitude changes the way you think, speak, and act. When you are truly grateful, you are no longer focused on what is missing. You stop obsessively questioning when and how your desire will arrive. Instead, you begin to see abundance everywhere. You notice small blessings, an unexpected compliment, a minor financial gain, or even a simple moment of ease, and you treat them as proof that you are already supported. This mental shift strengthens your belief and stabilizes the state required for bigger manifestations to appear. On a deeper level, gratitude harmonizes your emotions with the reality you want to experience. If your goal is wealth, for example, the emotional essence of wealth is often security, relief, and freedom. Gratitude produces those same feelings instantly, even without external changes. As you dwell in those feelings consistently, you train your nervous system and your subconscious to accept abundance as normal. Once that internal acceptance becomes dominant, opportunities and resources that match it begin to show up, often in ways you could not have planned. Practicing gratitude is simple, but its effects are profound. Begin by giving thanks for what already exists in your life, no matter how small it seems. The act of finding reasons to be thankful shifts your focus from what is missing to what is present. Then extend that same gratitude toward the things you desire as though they are already yours. Imagine receiving the wealth, the opportunities, or the financial freedom you want. Feel the relief and joy you would experience in that moment and mentally say thank you. That feeling is the confirmation that you have stepped into the state of the fulfilled desire. Many people underestimate the power of this practice because they treat gratitude like a task rather than a state. Writing a list of things you're thankful for can be helpful, but if you do it mechanically, without emotion, it will not shift your inner reality. Gratitude must be felt, not just spoken. Even a single minute of deep, heartfelt gratitude can be more effective than hours of empty affirmations because it moves you into the energy of having rather than wanting. Gratitude anchors manifestation because it dissolves resistance. You cannot be truly grateful and simultaneously worried or doubtful. Those states cannot exist together. When you are thankful, as if the manifestation has already occurred, you stop pushing it away with fear or impatience. You become aligned, calm, and receptive, which allows the unseen to take form more easily. Gratitude is the emotional bridge between imagining and receiving. By consistently affirming through your feelings that what you seek is already yours, you close the gap between desire and reality. Gratitude is not a reaction, it is a creative force that anchors the manifestation and invites it to become visible in your life. Wealth is not something distant or separate. It already exists in the unseen and is ready to express itself in your life the moment you align with it. Your inner state shapes your outer reality, and assumption becomes the bridge that carries you from lack to abundance. Detachment allows that wealth to flow without resistance. Living from the end keeps you anchored in the identity of already having, and gratitude seals it by affirming your acceptance. The process is not about forcing the outer world, but about transforming your inner one. When you consistently embody the feelings of abundance, wealth must appear, not as a coincidence, but as the inevitable reflection of who you have chosen to become. To say thanks. Thank you for listening and for allowing these words to guide you back to your own power. May you carry this awareness forward and experience the abundance that is already yours. Thank you. There comes a moment, a quiet, almost unnoticeable moment, when the entire atmosphere around your life shifts. Nothing visible may have happened yet, but you feel it deep within. Overflow has been activated. The struggle, the waiting, the restless pursuit, they lose their grip because something in you has already changed. Overflow is not a gift that randomly falls into your hands. It is the result of an inner decision, a complete acceptance that your world is already full, already complete, already abundant. The old self, the one who begged and worried, is no longer at the center of your life. You have stepped into a version of yourself who doesn't wonder if it will happen, only how quickly it will unfold. Everything you see now begins to rearrange itself to match this new assumption. Situations that felt blocked start opening. People you never imagined meeting appear. Opportunities that seemed impossible show up naturally, as if they had been waiting just beyond your old belief system. The key is understanding that overflow isn't something you chase, it's something you become. When your inner world feels full, life has no choice but to mirror that fullness. The external is only a shadow. The reality is within you. Gratitude becomes your evidence. You don't say thank you to get something. You say it because you already know it's done. You walk as if doors are already opened. You rest as though the answer has already been delivered. And in that rest, multiplication happens. What once trickled into your life now pours. What once felt scarce now feels limitless. That is the nature of overflow. It doesn't just meet your needs, it surpasses them. From this point forward, every action you take, every word you speak, and every thought you entertain is coming from a new place. A place of completion, of certainty, of unstoppable abundance. Everything has changed because you have changed. And once that shift is made, there is no going back. Every lasting transformation begins not with external action, but with a change in inner assumption. This is the silent pivot point where life's trajectory alters. You might spend years trying to manage circumstances, working harder or seeking strategies, yet still find yourself circling the same results. Why? Because the outer world is simply echoing the convictions you carry within. When you consciously choose to believe that abundance is not a fleeting event but your permanent natural state, everything around you begins to reorganize itself to reflect that belief. It's not a matter of waiting for proof. The decision itself is the proof. The shift happens in a single moment, often an unremarkable moment, when you stop identifying with lack and instead assume fullness. That assumption doesn't beg, it doesn't question, it doesn't try to manipulate events, it simply knows. Most people live their lives believing that change must first happen out there before they can feel secure, grateful, or confident. But the opposite is true. The inner assumption precedes the outer manifestation. When you wake up and declare within yourself, "Abundance is already mine, and it will never leave me," you set in motion an unseen but absolute rearrangement of events, people, and opportunities. This is not about pretending or forcing optimism. It's not about chanting affirmations while secretly holding on to fear. A true shift in assumption feels like a quiet decision of identity. You are no longer someone trying to get abundance. You are someone who already lives in it. And from that position, your choices, behaviors, and even body language change without effort. Think of a seed planted in fertile soil. The seed doesn't try to become a tree, its nature guarantees that outcome. Similarly, when your inner state is rooted in the assumption of overflow, growth is inevitable. You might still face moments that look like the old life, but even those are temporary shadows dissolving under the weight of your new belief. The world cannot resist the pull of a consistent inner assumption. If you keep declaring and feeling that abundance is your default, your life will conform, even if it requires dismantling current circumstances to rebuild them in alignment with your new state. The process may be invisible at first, but it is certain. What's crucial is persistence in that inner knowing. It's easy to decide once and then let external appearances shake you back into doubt. But every time you return to the assumption of abundance, you reinforce a new pattern, and each repetition strengthens it until it becomes automatic. At some point, you'll notice that situations that once triggered fear no longer do. You will see that opportunities find you without struggle, that people treat you differently. that doors open without you forcing them. That's not luck. That's the world catching up to the assumption you've been living from. The shift in inner assumption is the real beginning of overflow. You don't have to know how it will unfold. You don't have to figure out the exact path. Your only role is to remain rooted in the truth that abundance is permanent, unshakable, and already yours. And when that belief becomes your home, not just a temporary thought, you will find yourself surrounded by evidence so undeniable that you'll realize the outer world was always waiting for you to decide who you are. The greatest paradox of manifestation is that what you seek appears not when you chase it, but when you act as if it has already arrived. Completion, not waiting, is the real catalyst for overflow. Most people live in a state of silent waiting, hoping, asking, and checking to see if their desires are on the way. This very posture keeps them in a cycle of postponement, because waiting itself implies that what they want is not yet present. Completion is different. Completion is a state of inner finality, where you decide once and for all that what you have desired is already yours. It's not about convincing yourself with empty affirmations. It's about embodying the emotional and mental reality of the fulfilled desire until it becomes your most natural state. Think of how you behave after you've already received something important. You don't wake up wondering if it's coming. You don't analyze every small event as a sign. You simply live. You use it, enjoy it, and move forward. That is exactly the vibration of completion, and that vibration is what pulls overflow into your physical life. When you live from waiting, you're constantly measuring the gap between yourself and what you want. You are subtly affirming lack. It's not here yet. I hope it will come soon. Maybe tomorrow. The energy behind those thoughts creates a reality where the goal stays perpetually just out of reach. But when you step into completion, the entire dynamic changes. Instead of waking up thinking, will it happen today? You think it has already happened. Now I get to experience the unfolding. This inner certainty makes your actions effortless, your choices confident, and your presence magnetic. Opportunities align faster because your energy is no longer that of a seeker, it is that of an owner. Completion doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means creating a new internal reality so strong that the external world is forced to match it. For example, if you desire financial overflow, stop identifying as someone trying to become abundant. Start living as someone who is already abundant. That might look like making decisions from trust rather than fear, carrying yourself with ease rather than desperation, and speaking words that reflect certainty rather than doubt. This shift doesn't require recklessness. It doesn't mean spending carelessly or denying your current situation. It means that internally you no longer treat your desire as something distant. You no longer imagine yourself as incomplete until it arrives. You have already become the person who possesses it, and therefore the external must eventually catch up. Completion also brings emotional relief. Waiting is heavy. It keeps you tense, watching the clock and questioning yourself. Completion feels light. It releases the need to monitor every step because you know the outcome is already guaranteed. You can rest, and in that rest, ideas come easily, solutions appear naturally, and circumstances rearrange without struggle. The truth is, overflow cannot enter a heart that keeps declaring it's not here yet. It flows toward the heart that says, it is done, I am already full. That single assumption ends the cycle of delay and opens the door to multiplication. From this moment forward, stop living as though your life is on hold. Stop waiting for permission, for proof, or for the right time. Instead, move, speak, and decide from the place of completion. Live today as if the overflow you want has already shaped your reality. When you do, you'll notice something powerful. Life stops feeling like a pursuit and starts feeling like a reflection. You will see that what you were trying to reach was never ahead of you. It was waiting for you to claim it. By becoming whole first, completion is the end of waiting and the beginning of overflow. What you consistently whisper to yourself in the privacy of your mind is not harmless background noise. It is the blueprint your outer life obeys. Your inner conversation is law. Every silent thought, every mental dialogue, every scenario you rehearse when no one is watching is actively constructing the experiences you will eventually meet. Many believe that only spoken words carry power, but the mind's quiet talk is often more influential because it is unfiltered and constant. The things you say internally about who you are, what is possible, and how life treats you are seeds planted into the subconscious. Those seeds grow into events, people, and circumstances that mirror the tone of that dialogue. If your inner speech is filled with phrases like, "I never have enough," "things always go wrong," or "I can't handle this," your external world must comply with those declarations. Not because life is punishing you, but because it has no choice but to reflect the state you hold within. The reverse is equally true. When your mental conversations become ones of confidence, abundance, and certainty, you begin to see evidence of those assumptions shaping your reality. You may notice subtle changes at first, people treating you with more respect, unexpected opportunities appearing, obstacles dissolving. These are not coincidences. They are reflections of a shift in your inner law. This is why it's not enough to affirm positive words once or twice a day while allowing hours of mental criticism, fear, or lack to run unchecked. Your dominant inner speech wins. The quiet thoughts you repeat the most, not the ones you say with forced enthusiasm, are the ones that create your life. Changing your inner conversation is not about denial, it's about deliberate replacement. When an old limiting thought arises, you do not have to argue with it or fear it, you simply redirect it. No, that is no longer my story. This is who I am now. At first, this requires conscious effort. You will catch yourself mid-thought and choose a new one. Over time, however, these new conversations become natural and they begin to run automatically in the background, shaping a very different future. One powerful practice is to imagine speaking to yourself from the perspective of your fulfilled self, the version of you who already has the overflow you desire. What does that self say when they wake up in the morning? How do they describe life? What is their tone? Calm, certain, grateful? Adopt that voice now. Even before anything changes externally, let your mind become saturated with the words and emotions of that complete version of you. When your inner world changes its language, your outer world cannot stay the same. The people you attract, the opportunities that appear, even the challenges you face will all shift to match your new internal state. Some situations may even disappear entirely because they no longer align with the person you have become internally. This is not theory, it is law. The world is a mirror. It does not respond to your wishes or your needs. It responds to your dominant inner conversation. From this point forward, pay attention to the words you silently speak to yourself, because they are the commands you are giving to your future. Each thought is a decision, each mental sentence a seed. Plant with intention. Speak inside your mind as if the overflow, the success, the love, and the opportunities are already present. And then watch. As your inner dialogue rises to match the life you desire, your external world will have no choice but to follow. Gratitude is often misunderstood as something you do in order to receive more. Many treat it as a strategy, a step in a formula. Be thankful now so the universe will give you what you want later. But true gratitude is not a bargaining tool. It is not a ritual of preparation. It is evidence that you already possess the very thing you once longed for. Think about moments in your life when you were genuinely grateful. You weren't trying to make something happen. You felt a natural, effortless thankfulness because the blessing was already there. You weren't reaching, you were experiencing. That is what real gratitude feels like. It is a signal of arrival, not anticipation. When you shift into this kind of gratitude before the external evidence appears, you are essentially declaring, I know it's already mine. I know it's already done. I am no longer seeking. I am enjoying. That mental posture is powerful because it aligns you with the exact emotional state you would have if the desire were already fulfilled. Most people live in a loop of conditional gratitude. They tell themselves, I'll be thankful when I finally get the job, the relationship, the money, the health, the freedom. But that attitude postpones fulfillment because it keeps the mind rooted in lack. Gratitude that waits for proof is not creative. It is reactive. So overflow begins when you choose gratitude before anything changes. You wake up and say, thank you for the opportunities that are already aligned for me. Thank you for the love that surrounds me. Thank you for the financial freedom that is now part of my life. At first, your senses might resist because they see the current reality. But you are not training your eyes. You are training your inner state to match what you've decided is true. So this is not about pretending or forcing emotions you don't feel. Real creative gratitude feels calm, grounded, and certain. Not desperate. It is the difference between saying, please let this happen, I'm thankful in advance just in case, versus saying, thank you because I know it is done. I don't have to push or chase anymore. Such gratitude carries a quiet confidence that changes your choices and behavior. You no longer approach life like someone trying to get there. You already feel there. You carry yourself differently. You make decisions that align with someone who already has enough. People sense that energy. Circumstances respond to it. And something interesting happens. The moment you settle into genuine gratitude as if the desire is already fulfilled, your external world begins to shift faster. Not because gratitude earns the manifestation, but because you have stopped affirming its absence. You have stopped sending out signals of, I don't have it yet. Gratitude ends the waiting game by collapsing the distance between wanting and having. From this point forward, consider gratitude your strongest evidence that your desire has already crossed the finish line in the unseen. The more natural and consistent your thankfulness feels, the closer you are to seeing its physical reflection. Don't wait for life to give you reasons to be grateful. Give gratitude as proof to yourself that you already stand in the reality you once asked for. Let every thank you be an acknowledgement that you're not preparing for abundance. You are already living in it. Gratitude is not a tool to get you to your destination. It is the realization that you have already arrived. One of the most difficult yet powerful principles to understand is that detachment is not the same as indifference. Detachment does not mean you stop caring about what you want. It means you release the anxiety, urgency, and tight grip that choke its natural arrival. When you let go of timelines and pressure, you create the space for what is already yours to expand and move toward you with ease. Think of it this way. When you plant a seed, you don't dig it up every day to see if it's growing. You don't scream at the soil demanding results. You trust the process. You water it, keep it in the right environment, and let nature do what it does best. That is detachment. You've done your part, now you step back and allow the unseen work to unfold. In manifestation, detachment functions the same way. When you constantly check, question, and push, you're not actually helping the process, you're signaling doubt. That doubt sends a clear message. I don't fully believe it's mine yet, and life reflects that back by delaying or distorting what you seek. When you release that pressure, something important happens. Your inner state shifts from scarcity to abundance, from waiting to having. And when your inner world feels full, the external world has no choice but to mirror that fullness. This detachment is also what unlocks multiplication. When you cling tightly to a single path, a single person, or a single opportunity, you restrict how much life can give you. You're essentially saying, this is the only way my desire can come. But when you let go, you allow infinite channels to open. Suddenly, instead of one limited option, you find yourself surrounded by possibilities you couldn't have planned. Pressure creates contraction, detachment creates expansion. Have you noticed that the more desperate you feel about something, the more it seems to slip away? Yet when you stop obsessing, things start moving. That's not random. It's the law of alignment. The energy of force repels. The energy of trust attracts. True detachment doesn't mean you stop imagining or desiring. It means you hold the vision with certainty but without need. You think, it's already done. I don't have to micromanage the how or when. It's unfolding perfectly, even if I can't see it yet. That kind of calm confidence makes you magnetic because you are no longer radiating tension. Another key aspect of detachment is freedom of focus. When you're obsessed with one outcome, you often ignore the rest of your life. But when you let go, you re-engage with your present moment. You enjoy what you have, you make room for joy, creativity, and connection. Ironically, it's in this relaxed state, when you're no longer clutching at the future, that your desired future arrives faster. Detachment also keeps you from settling for less than what truly belongs to you. If you're clinging tightly to something out of fear it won't come back, you may be blocking something far greater. Letting go says, I trust that what's mine cannot be taken, and what leaves is making space for more. That trust is what causes life to multiply your blessings rather than limit them. Creative input rather than limit them. From this moment forward, practice holding your desires lightly but firmly. Know they are yours, but don't strangle them with deadlines or desperation. Allow them to breathe, to expand, and to find the easiest path to you. Many people believe that achieving more requires doing more, working harder, adding new routines, or constantly hustling to earn success. Yet real, lasting transformation doesn't begin with action. It begins with identity. Who you believe yourself to be determines what actions you naturally take, what opportunities you notice, and even what you allow yourself to receive. Action alone can create temporal changes, but if your inner self-concept remains the same, life will eventually pull you back to match that identity. For example, if you see yourself as someone who always struggles financially, you may work long hours, try new ventures, and even experience brief increases in income. But sooner or later, you will unconsciously sabotage or limit yourself to return to the level that feels familiar. The opposite is also true. When you adopt the identity of someone for whom abundance is natural, your actions become different without forcing them. You no longer chase opportunities from desperation. You recognize and act on them from certainty. Your choices align with someone who already possesses overflow. This shift in identity changes your automatic behavior. You don't have to push yourself to act confident or think abundantly. You simply do, because it feels like the most natural expression of who you are. The inner assumption that I am a person who lives in overflow leads to actions that reflect stability, generosity, and trust without conscious effort. Think of identity as the root and action as the branches. You can trim and shape branches all day, taking new courses, setting bigger goals, making endless to-do lists. But if the root stays the same, the tree will always produce the same kind of fruit. Change the root, and the fruit changes automatically. When you focus on identity, even your definition of effort shifts. You no longer take random action out of fear of missing out. You act deliberately because you already know success is inevitable. That mindset saves energy, increases clarity, and makes results feel smoother, not forced. This doesn't mean you sit passively and do nothing. It means that your state of being leads your doing. You are not taking action to become abundant. You take action because you already are abundant inside. That distinction may seem small, but it's everything. Actions taken from lack feel heavy and exhausting. Actions taken from a secure identity feel inspired and effective. Another powerful effect of identity-based transformation is that it changes what you accept or reject. When you believe you are someone for whom overflow is natural, you stop tolerating situations, opportunities, or relationships that reflect scarcity. You make choices that align with your higher self, not your old fears. Adopting a new identity may feel uncomfortable at first because your current environment and habits are built around the old version of you. But persistence is key. Every time you remind yourself, I am the person who already has what I desire, you reinforce a new foundation. Over time, this identity feels more real than your old one, and your external life adjusts to match it. The truth is, sustainable overflow is not a reward for endless action. It's the inevitable outcome of becoming someone who naturally experiences it. Once you see yourself as that person, you won't have to force opportunities. They will recognize you and move toward you. From this point forward, stop asking, what more do I need to do? And start asking, who am I being right now? When you choose identity over action, you stop striving to create overflow and start living as someone for whom overflow is simply reality. And life has no choice but to reflect that truth. Everything we have explored leads to one central truth. Overflow is not something you chase, earn, or wait for. It is something you become. The shift begins the moment you decide that abundance is your natural state, that your desires are already complete, and that your inner world, not external conditions, determines what you experience. When you maintain assumptions of fullness, speak to yourself as though the promise is already fulfilled, and hold gratitude as proof rather than preparation, your life cannot remain the same. By releasing timelines, by letting go of pressure, and by choosing a new identity over endless action, you step into a version of yourself that naturally attracts multiplication. From here, your task is simple. Live as though it is already done. Walk, think, and speak from completion. The world will adjust. Circumstances will shift. What once felt distant will feel inevitable. Overflow has already been activated. The rest of your life is simply catching up. Thank you for listening. Close your eyes for a moment and listen within. Can you hear the whisper of abundance calling you? Can you feel the river of wealth that is already moving in your direction? Not slowly, but with great urgency. Wealth is not far from you. It is not hiding. It is not waiting for the economy to shift or the conditions to improve. Wealth is racing toward you, but only if you are open to receive it. And what does it mean to be open? It means to stop looking at your outer world for confirmation and begin feeling the reality of wealth within your inner world. The treasure you seek is not hidden in banks, paychecks, or gold. It lives in your own consciousness, in the assumptions you dare to accept as true. Every moment you feel rich in spirit, rich in gratitude, rich in imagination, you are summoning the wealth of the universe to pour itself into your experience. But the key is your heart. A heart closed in fear, in doubt, in resentment, cannot receive the overflow. But a heart wide open in love, joy, and expectation becomes a magnet more powerful than any strategy or effort. Your wealth is not waiting for permission, it's already on the move. It is drawn to the vibration of certainty. It listens for the silent song of your faith. If you will live as if it's already yours, the universe rushes to mirror your belief. What you assume, with feeling, with repetition, with love, must manifest. It is law. Your outer world is nothing more than a delayed reflection of your inner assumption. So today, refuse to look at your bank account with fear. Refuse to measure your wealth by what your eyes can see. Instead, look with the eyes of imagination. Feel with the power of belief. Speak as one who already has what they desire. Wealth hears you, it feels your invitation, and when you align with its frequency, it doesn't walk, it sprints. You become the embodiment of prosperity itself. Keep your heart open, stay in the knowing. Trust the unseen, because wealth is not crawling toward you. It is racing, and the moment you open the door, it will flood in like a mighty river. Close your eyes and consider this truth. Wealth does not come from the world, it comes through the world, but its origin is within you. Every coin, every opportunity, every idea, every open door is simply a shadow, a reflection of what already exists in your inner consciousness. You are not the beggar of life, you are its source. You are not empty, you are the wellspring itself. We have been taught to believe that wealth is something we must earn, chase, or compete for. But that idea is built on fear. The fear of lack, the illusion of separation, the belief that we are at the mercy of the economy or the opinions of others. Nothing could be further from the truth. The truth is far more empowering. You are the operant power. Your world bends and shapes itself to your inner state of being. If you believe that wealth comes from outside, from jobs, from markets, from people, then you have given away your power. You have made yourself a servant to circumstances. But the moment you awaken to the realization that everything in your outer world is a mirror of your inner world, you begin to take back your authority. You begin to understand that the only work that matters is the work within. Think of your mind as the projector and the world as the screen. The film running through the projector is your assumption, your belief, your self-concept. If the film is one of lack, fear, and worry, the screen will faithfully reflect poverty, struggle, and limitation. But if the film is one of abundance, joy, and unwavering certainty, the screen must change. The world must reflect wealth, prosperity, and ease. This is not theory, this is law. A seed planted in consciousness must bear fruit in the world. The kind of fruit depends on the seed. If you sow thoughts of lack, you will reap experiences of lack. If you sow thoughts of wealth, deeply and consistently, your life will blossom in prosperity, not by accident, not by chance, but by spiritual law. The wealth you see in others is not evidence of their superiority, it is evidence of their inner alignment, and that same alignment is available to you right now. You do not need to wait. You do not need permission. You do not need a bank loan, a perfect resume, or the approval of anyone. You only need to turn inward and accept a new state of consciousness. Begin by asking yourself, what would it feel like to be wealthy now? Not someday, not when the conditions are right, but now. Let that feeling flood your being. Let that inner state become your new dwelling place. Move, speak, walk, and imagine from that state. And the outer world will rearrange itself around your new identity. You are the source. Your imagination is divine. Your awareness of being is the true riches. Every time you declare, I am wealthy, and feel it as true, you plant the seed. When you persist in that feeling, you water it. When you refuse to contradict it with doubt, you shine light on it. And eventually, with certainty, that inner wealth bursts through the soil of experience and becomes visible to all. So do not be deceived by appearances. Do not be discouraged by temporary conditions. Your power does not lie in what you can see, but in what you can believe. The source of wealth is not in the bank, it is in your belief. Not in the stock market, but in your state of being. Not in the paycheck, but in your perception. Wealth, like everything else in your world, does not come because you chase it. It does not arrive because you work yourself into exhaustion or prove your worth to the world. Wealth responds not to effort but to feeling, specifically the feeling of already being in possession of that which you desire. You must feel it to receive it. This is the great paradox that most ignore. You don't wait to feel wealthy once money shows up. You feel wealthy and then the money shows up. The world tells you to be realistic, to base your emotions on facts, but that keeps you trapped. That makes you a servant of your circumstances. The secret is not to react to life but to create it. By generating the feeling in advance. Your outer world is not a cause, it is an effect. The true cause is within you. It is the emotion you entertain, the assumption you dwell in, the state you occupy. Every state carries its own emotions, its own circumstances, and its own manifestations. If you dwell in the state of wealth, wealth must come. Not maybe, not eventually, it must. To feel wealthy means to walk as if you have more than enough, to speak as if every word you say comes from confidence, not desperation, to rest at night with the assurance that everything you need is already on the way. You are not begging the universe, you are aligning with what is already yours. But here is the challenge. Many people wait. They wait for a sign, they wait for a deposit, they wait for someone to help them believe. That waiting is a signal to the subconscious mind that the desire is still missing, and so it remains missing. You must flip the script. You must dare to feel the joy, the peace, the confidence of already having your wealth now, not later, now. Even if your current world seems unchanged, even if the bank account says otherwise, you must persist in the feeling. You must become more loyal to the feeling than to the facts. That is faith. That is creation. Everything you now call real was once just a thought in someone's mind. That car, that house, that business, that wealth, all of it began in the unseen, born from a feeling. The feeling gives life to the form. If the form hasn't arrived yet, don't panic. It only means you must sink deeper into the feeling, allow it to saturate your being. Don't try to figure out how it will come. That's not your job. Your job is to maintain the vibration of already having it. This is how the law works. What you feel is true becomes true. What you accept emotionally becomes fact. The subconscious mind does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you feel to be real. So feel it. Feel the richness in your bones. Feel the security, the options, the generosity that wealth brings. Imagine how your body would relax if you knew all your needs were met. Let that relaxation flood you now. Breathe it in. Walk in it. Dwell in it. Return to it again and again until it becomes more real to you than what your five senses report. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you are. And you are what you consistently feel. So choose the feeling of abundance. Choose the energy of certainty. Choose the inner state of I have it now. And watch what happens. The world will rearrange itself in ways that defy logic, because it must reflect what you have already accepted within. This is the golden key. You must feel it to receive it. Not hope, not wish, not want. Feel. And when you feel as if you already are the person who has it, you become that person. You will look around one day and realize what once felt like imagination is now your daily life. Because you dared to feel it first, and life had no choice but to deliver. The riches you seek are not far from you. They are not outside of your reach or hidden behind locked doors. They are waiting at the threshold of your being, eager to enter. But there is one condition. The heart must be open. Your heart is the portal, the sacred gate through which all good flows. When it is open, receptive, and filled with love, you become magnetic. You begin to draw to yourself all the things you once thought you had to chase. But when the heart is closed, hardened by fear, pain, resentment, or doubt, that magnetic field collapses and the flow of wealth is blocked. This is not metaphorical, it is energetic truth. The universe does not respond to your words alone. It responds to the state of your being, and that state is most powerfully expressed through the heart. The heart is not just a physical organ, it is a spiritual instrument. It is the seat of emotion, the center of creation. When the heart vibrates in love, joy, gratitude, and peace, you are in perfect alignment with abundance. And abundance flows to alignment, not to effort. You can work endlessly, strategize, hustle, and push. But if your heart is closed, you will always feel the resistance. It will feel like struggle. You will feel stuck. Why? Because you're trying to force wealth through a locked gate. You're sending mixed signals to life. On the surface, you want wealth, but on the inside, you may still carry fear, mistrust, or unworthiness. That's why opening the heart is the first step, not an emotional indulgence, but a spiritual discipline. To open your heart is to say, I am willing to receive. It is to drop the armor. It is to forgive. It is to return to softness. And in that softness, your true power is reborn. You cannot attract wealth while feeling bitter toward others. You cannot call in overflow while secretly believing you are not good enough to receive it. The heart must be cleared of these false identities. You are not broken, you are not behind, you are not unworthy. These are lies created by the world, but accepted by a wounded heart. To begin to open your heart daily, sit in silence and breathe deeply. Visualize your heart expanding like a golden sun. Feel warmth there. Let go of anything that tightens it. Speak gently to yourself. Say, I am safe. I am ready. I am open to all the good life has for me. The more you nurture this state, the more life will match it. Everything you desire already exists, but it cannot pass through a closed door. Love is the code that unlocks the vault. When you radiate love, not just toward others, but toward yourself, the universe responds instantly. People treat you differently. Opportunities flow effortlessly. Money, ideas, favor, timing, they all show up without force. You are not attracting, you are allowing. You become the living embodiment of I already have it, and the world mirrors that back to you with perfect accuracy. This is why the heart must stay open. Not just once, but as a way of life. You don't need to become someone else. You only need to return to who you really are. A being of pure love, made in the image of divine fullness. The moment you remember this, the energy shifts. Doors open, supply flows. What once seemed distant begins to move rapidly toward you. Because the moment your heart opens, the portal activates. So if you've been wondering why it hasn't shown up yet, don't look outside, look inward. Ask, what is my heart saying? Is it open or is it guarded? And if it's guarded, don't judge, just love it back to life. Bit by bit, breath by breath. Imagination is not a child's game. It is not mere daydreaming. It is the most powerful creative force in your life. What you imagine, you begin to create. What you persist in imagining, you begin to live. Imagination is not fantasy. It is spiritual blueprinting. Everything you now call real began first in the unseen. The clothes you wear, the home you live in, the money in your account, the very chair you sit on. All of it was once a thought, an inner image, a vision. Someone dared to see it before it existed, and through persistence in that vision, it solidified into form. You are no different. Imagination is the secret engine behind all manifestation. It is the workshop of the soul. It is where you rehearse your future, feel it in advance, and claim your desire long before it shows up in the visible world. If you will learn to live from imagination rather than from appearances, you will unlock the very key to transformation. When you imagine vividly, not weakly, not casually, but with emotion, detail, and repetition, you are planting seeds into the subconscious. And just like seeds planted in fertile soil, these inner images begin to grow. They gather substance, they take shape, and in time, they break through the soil of the seen world and become your lived experience. This is not wishful thinking, this is law. Your imagination is divine. It is your direct link to the creative intelligence that governs all things. When you use it with intention, you are not escaping reality, you are commanding it. But here's the mistake most people make. They imagine once and then give up. Or worse, they imagine their desire and then undo it by returning to thoughts of doubt, fear, and limitation. This is like planting a seed and digging it up every hour to see if it's growing. Persistence is the key. You must imagine over and over again, not because it hasn't worked, but because this is how the creative process unfolds. Every time you imagine, you deepen the groove in your subconscious mind. You impress the image more firmly. You align your vibration with the frequency of what you desire. And as within, so without. The outer world has no choice but to reflect your sustained inner pictures. Not immediately, but inevitably. There is a gestation period for all things, just like in nature. But rest assured, if the image is vivid, consistent, and accepted emotionally, it will harden into fact. So ask yourself, what am I imagining daily? When I am alone with my thoughts, what pictures am I painting on the canvas of my mind? Are they images of abundance, love, and success? Or are they shadows of worry, lack, and fear? The mind will always imagine something. It's never idle. So you must choose deliberately, become the artist of your inner world. Use your imagination with precision. See yourself wealthy. Hear the conversations of congratulations. Feel the satisfaction of already having it. Live in that world. Not just when you meditate, but as often as possible throughout the day. Because imagination is not a technique, it is a way of living, a way of being. Your life will always expand to match the vision you hold inside. And the greater your capacity to imagine, the greater your ability to manifest. Your present reality is nothing more than the harvest of past imagination, and your future will be the harvest of what you dare to imagine now. So do not underestimate it. Do not treat it lightly. Imagination is the secret engine, the power behind every transformation, the invisible sculptor of your visible world. When you plant a seed in the soil, you don't sit beside it for hours, demanding to know how it will grow. You don't tear it open to force the roots. You don't try to organize the sun, the rain, or the seasons. You simply trust that life knows what to do. And yet, when it comes to wealth, desires, and manifestations, we often forget this sacred truth. We begin to doubt. We demand to know the steps. We obsess over timing, over details, over every possible scenario. In doing so, we suffocate the very dream we gave birth to. The truth is simple. Wealth doesn't need your strategy. It needs your surrender. The moment you imagine clearly and feel it as real, your job is done. The how is not your responsibility. Your role is to live in the end, to dwell in the feeling of already having what you desire. When you focus on the how, you shift into doubt. You affirm, I don't believe it's coming unless I can figure it out. And by doing so, you cancel the order. You disrupt the invisible forces working on your behalf. You send mixed signals to the subconscious and the universe. One moment you're trusting, the next you're questioning. But you cannot imagine one thing and live emotionally in the opposite. You cannot hold the image of abundance while feeling the fear of lack. The two cancel each other out. You must stay in the feeling, not the figuring. Ask yourself, what would it feel like if everything was already taken care of? If the doors were already opening? If the money was already on its way, unseen but inevitable? That's the place you must live from. That's your real home. When you surrender the how, you move into flow. You give the divine intelligence room to operate. You allow life to surprise you, to exceed your logic, to orchestrate connections and events beyond anything you could have planned. This is not passivity. It is alignment. You are not giving up. You are getting out of the way. Often, the wealth you seek is delayed not because it is far, but because you are standing in front of it, blocking it with worry, timelines, and control. You must let go. Let go with peace. Let go with trust. Let go with the confidence of someone who knows that the harvest follows the planting. Always, you've already planted the seed through your imagination. You've already claimed it through your assumption. Now let it unfold. Let the bridge of incidents appear. Let the coincidences surprise you. Let life carry you there in ways you never expected. The most miraculous manifestations often come through the most unpredictable means. What you think is a setback might be a setup. What looks like a detour might be the perfect path. That is the wisdom of surrender. Stay loyal to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. That is your compass. That is your work. Every time you're tempted to ask how, return to thank you. Every time you want to worry, return to I already have it. And every time doubt creeps in, remind yourself, I don't need to know how. I only need to know that it is done, that it is mine, that it is unfolding perfectly. Let the invisible handle the orchestration. Let the divine mind, far greater than your conscious understanding, weave the threads of your desire into form. Stay in the frequency. Stay in the joy. Stay in the now. There is a power that moves faster than time, logic, or planning. It defies effort, bypasses obstacles, and speeds up what once seemed far away. That power is faith. Not blind hope, but the quiet, unshakable knowing that what you have imagined is already yours. Faith is not something you force. It is something you live. It is the steady decision to dwell in the end, to walk, speak, and feel as though the thing you desire has already come to pass. And when you do this, wealth doesn't crawl toward you, it races. Why? Because you have removed the resistance. You are no longer waiting for it, you are allowing it. You have become the embodiment of your desire, and life must reflect your inner world. Living in the end is not pretending. It is claiming. It is knowing that your assumption is more real than the current facts. It is trusting that what you feel to be true on the inside must, by law, express itself on the outside. Faith does not need evidence. Faith creates evidence. Most people live in the middle, between wishing and worrying. They want to believe, but they still doubt. They imagine their desire once or twice, then rush back into fear. And so their manifestation is delayed, not because it is far away, but because their emotional state keeps changing. Faith, however, stays rooted. It does not look to the five senses for reassurance. It does not ask, where is it? It declares, it is done. To live in the end is to move with calm confidence. You don't need to force results or manipulate the outer world. You carry the outcome inside you like a seed. You nurture it with feeling, you protect it with focus, and because of your faith, it grows quickly, often faster than you could have planned. When you assume the state of the wish fulfilled, everything around you begins to shift. The people, places, and events necessary to your desire start moving into position. You don't need to know how. Your faith handles the details. You simply remain in the state, and life conforms to it. This is why you must stop looking at what is and begin living from what will be. Your senses may show you lack, but your inner eye sees abundance. Your surroundings may appear unchanged, but within you are already transformed. And faith honors the inner world more than the outer. Wealth is not earned by effort alone, it is summoned by belief. Faith says, I already am prosperous, and in response life says, yes, you are. Let me prove it. This is the speed of faith. It removes the waiting, it cancels the delay, it activates the promise now. Think of it this way, when you order something online, you don't doubt the process. You confirm the order and go on with your day. You trust that it's being prepared, packaged, and delivered, even if you don't see it yet. Manifestation works the same way. Your inner assumption is the order, your faith is the confirmation, and when you hold to it without doubting, without canceling, without tracking the delivery every hour, the arrival comes swiftly, often ahead of schedule. Faith is not passive. It is the most powerful action you can take. So live in the end, dwell in the feeling, speak from the outcome, not from the need. Let the world catch up to your inner vision. So now you know. Wealth is not waiting for permission. It is not moving slowly. It is racing toward you, drawn by the power of your imagination, your inner conviction, your open heart, and your living faith. When you understand that the source of wealth is within you, you stop chasing and begin allowing. When you choose to feel wealthy before it appears, you shift into the frequency where miracles happen. When you keep your heart open, you become the channel through which all abundance flows. And when you let go of the how, you make room for the unseen to work wonders. But most of all, when you choose to live in the end, in faith, in confidence, in certainty, life has no choice but to respond, because the outer world is only ever mirroring the world you hold within. So walk forward now with peace in your soul and power in your heart. The wealth you desire is not on its way, it is here. You're not becoming, you already are. All that remains is for you to believe it, feel it, and receive it. And when you do, the floodgates will open, and nothing will ever be the same. Thank you for listening. Thank you for choosing to awaken to your power. And most of all, thank you for believing in the unseen, because that's where everything begins. Now go and live as if it's already yours, because it is.